Your old or broken phone can let you down when you need it most.
Perfect.
But at Verizon, trade in any old phone from our top brands and get the most for it, up to $2,000 in value, for an amazing new iPhone 16 Pro with Apple Intelligence and a new line on My Plan, and iPad and Apple Watch Series 10. That's like a 3-for-1. And you can get it on any plan. At Verizon, trade in your old phone for a brand new iPhone 16 Pro, iPad, and Apple Watch. The other guys won't give you that. Visit Verizon.com today. Additional terms apply. Service plan required for Apple Watch and iPad. Up to $2,000 value based on iPhone, iPad, and Apple Watch.
You got problems that you ought to be concerned with. Moolah. You don't know how you're supposed to earn it, or what to do with it, or how to keep it. You're a freak with a dark, shameful secret. But you're not the only one. Get your hidden financial fears with a blast of sun. Now your healing has begun. It's bad with money with
Gabe S.
Done.
Hello and welcome to Bonus Bag. I'm back with our guest from Tuesday, Tiffany Irving. Do you want to remind my audience who you are and what you do?
Hi, Gabe. Yes, absolutely. I'm Tiffany Irving. I'm a Senior Vice President Wealth Advisor with Mesro Wealth Management, based out of our Chicago offices. I've been doing this for over 25 years.
So we were talking about this off mic, but I wanted to get into it on mic because you mentioned that you can be found on LinkedIn.
Yes.
And LinkedIn went from kind of a joke to all of a sudden LinkedIn is popping off and I'm getting recommended you have to be on LinkedIn as a financial podcast or whatever. What is happening on LinkedIn with the financial sector?
Sure. I just think the business to business sector for sure is growing. And I was getting ready to say offline, I was chatting with someone yesterday, and I'm a little older than this, but kind of the average age out there now is really that 26 to 35-year-olds are really very suddenly interested in LinkedIn. It kind of used to just be like a resume, find a job sort of place. They probably hate me saying that, but now I think you're seeing a lot more content, video content. Yeah, it's interesting. It's just more of a business mindset for business to consumer, kind of without less personal opinion that you see on some of the other platforms.
Yeah, people are fully blogging on LinkedIn. I went to a seminar for how to fund a film, and one of their main things that they were recommending was LinkedIn. And I was like, well, I'm glad this was free because this seminar just told me to join LinkedIn. But I was like, wow, that's wild. It was like a dead platform. And then all of a sudden it sprung back to be so huge for business and finances. And I was like, when people would hang up an episode of this show, they're, find me on Instagram, find me on TikTok, whatever. Now it's like, find me on LinkedIn.
It's an interesting platform. As I said, you've got the video content, you have people posting newsletters, I think it's just a great way. I spend a lot of time in my car commuting or going to see clients. So much time is spent podcasting and listening to podcasts or audiobooks. So I find a lot of great podcasts through LinkedIn, especially financial podcasts and the like. So it does seem to be the new place to be. So you should add it to your list if you're...
I guess. Wow. All right. Maybe. I love the little banner that says ready to work or something on your little photo. I'm like, yeah.
It does?
There's a little thing that you can put on your picture if you're looking for a job that just is a picture of you. And then under the banner, it's ready to work or looking for work or something. And I was like, oh, yeah, get it all out there. Put it on your little photo.
I think it's also people finding a place work-wise to not only brand your company, but also a little bit more personally about who you are. So if you're going to do business with someone else, you're learning more about them personally in addition to their business branding, which is nice.
Very recently, I used Indeed to get hired for a part-time job. The employer put their job listing up on Indeed. That's where I found it. I applied through Indeed and I got the job. Indeed made the hiring process so easy. I was able to search for all kinds of jobs based on my skills and being able to look at really easy to read descriptions from the jobs about what they were looking for in a candidate. If I needed to hire someone again, I would absolutely use Indeed. And I also have been telling everyone when they've been saying that they want to look for a job or they don't know where to find a job, I was like, you got to use Indeed. I've literally told 4 people I found this job on Indeed. That's where you should look if you're looking to find a job. And the job I was looking for, they needed someone really quickly because they were growing so fast. So they needed to hire the right person very fast, and it was so important. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. I sincerely love Indeed. I went on there. It was incredibly easy. I literally got hired in September for a job actually using Indeed. I know this is a podcast ad, but I mean it. I really did use Indeed. I really do recommend Indeed. It all happened so fast, and I didn't even have to really stress. I found what I wanted. I got the job. Plus, with Indeed sponsored jobs, there are no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? In the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. And if you're looking to hire, you need to use Indeed because you'll find people like me. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/badwithmoney. Just go to Indeed.com/badwithmoney right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/badwithmoney. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. You guys know that I take testosterone and that causes your hair to thin, and my hair is thinning. And I want it to thin to a certain degree, but I don't need it to thin as much as it may end up thinning. So what can I do about that? And as you guys know, I have known about Nutrafol for a while, and I have been taking it. They were kind enough to send me some samples like a few weeks ago, and I have seen decreased shedding. Like, my hair sheds so much in the shower, and that always freaked me out, made me feel really self-conscious, like just would always think, is this too much hair? And after taking Nutrafol, I have noticed decreased shedding. This year, there is nothing holding you back from loving your hair again. Hair is so much more than what you see on the surface. It's a reflection of what's happening inside, such as my testosterone. Let Nutrafol target the key root causes of your thinning hair and help you grow stronger, healthier strands from within. Hair thinning is very common, okay? And it's very frustrating that it's kind of a new thing that's going on for me as I transition. And I need all the help I can get, especially because the shedding is so freaky. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people. See thicker, stronger, faster growing hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. I cannot wait to get to the 3-month mark if it's already helping now. Physician formulated with 100% drug-free ingredients, Nutrafol supports healthy hair growth from within by targeting key root causes of thinning, okay? So they are stress, hormones, aging, nutrition, lifestyle, metabolism, through whole body health. Building a hair growth routine is simple. Purchase online, no prescription required. Automated deliveries and free shipping keep you on track. Plus, with the Nutrafol subscription, you can save up to 20%. You'll have access to free naturopathic doctor consults, and a Headspace meditation membership is included. While many supplements rely solely on ingredient studies, Nutrafol clinically tests final formulations to ensure their efficacy. In a clinical study, 72% of men saw more scalp coverage after taking Nutrafol Men Hair Growth Supplement for 6 months, and 86% of women saw improved hair growth after taking Nutrafol Women Hair Growth Supplements for 6 months. Start your hair growth journey with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month's subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code BWM. Find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and stylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code BWM. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code BWM. So you're working with, let's say, any kind of couple that comes in. What would you start them off? Like, what are the first, because I imagine you want them to have conversations before they come in to see someone like you or you. So what ideally, let's say someone comes in and you're like, they've had the talks. This is amazing. What have they talked about?
Ha ha ha. I don't think we've ever had that happen. I think they start with us first, but that's a great question.
Oh, no.
I think ideally people have sat down. Again, if we're talking about a couple situation, I think the big thing to think about are, I know everyone says this, what are your short and your longer term goals and objectives? If you have any large expense items kind of coming up in the next 12 to 18 to 24 months versus, I want to retire by the time I'm 55. I want to retire whatever age that looks like for you. I want to sell my business at X. I want to, like, all of those things. I think that's really critically important. And for a couple to sit down separately and kind of write out those goals and objectives, what's important to them, prioritize them by order of importance. And then if they come together and have that conversation so they can see how either close together or far apart they are, I think that's really, really critical, because our conversations are really driven by the customized financial planning that we're putting together for them, which is really based on those goals and objectives. I have to understand where you're trying to get to in order to figure out how to help you get there. So that's kind of where we start.
So they're just coming to you to mediate and therapize this conversation?
Yeah, a lot of what we do, I feel like, is psychology for sure, and therapy with people. But I think the money conversation is hard for a lot of people. And even couples I know have been together a really, really long time, they're like, I hear people talk about the money dates that they have, and they're like, who has money dates? Like, do you really talk about that on a regular? So many couples don't really actually have the conversations. And I think it's just working with an outside advisor to sort of hold you accountable to those conversations. And also think about, we knew we need to do an estate plan, but we never really did one. Okay, well, let me tell you why it's so important and what can happen if you don't do one. Like, here's the opportunity cost of not setting that up. Or insurance, why is that so critical, right? You've got the assets that you've built up, but how do we protect those assets and make sure? I talk a lot like the D words, which are always death, disability, divorce. Things happen. Yeah, things happen. So how do we protect ourselves and each other while we're still in a good place? If it's a couple, if we can have those conversations early on, I think those are critically important. So it's a little bit of therapy. I say planning is an art and a science. I can do the financials and the quantitative side of it for sure, but it also has to do with the conversations that you have and the goals and objectives that you have.
If you're a young couple and you don't have a lot of money or assets, what is the first stuff that you should be doing? Ideally, yeah, we do a lot of financial literacy programs at colleges and the like. I think that's super important. So kind of the order of things, if you will. I say number one, and I'm having my girls are in college, so having these conversations is number one, build out your emergency funds. So whether that's 3 to 6 months worth of planning for you, what are your expenses? What are your needs? Should you lose a job, right? What kind of dollars do you need to have in the bank? So I talk about building out those emergency funds first. And some people will say, well, yeah, but what about paying down debt? Well, if you work really, really hard to pay down your debt first and some kind of an emergency comes, then you're right back to square one because you used credit or loans to take care of that emergency. So we say emergency funds first, and then take a look at, what kind of outstanding debts do you have? Is it good debt, bad debt, credit cards versus student loans versus, so those are the conversations we have next. What would you quantify as good debt or bad debt?
I'm not really worried about mortgages and student loans. Long-term, well, student loans, that's a whole other conversation. But in general, I'm not worried about student loans in terms of, again, depending on what rate they are, but taking a look at if you have those liabilities out there. The big one is credit cards or personal loans, because those are usually north of 20% interest rates, which is just killing people. And I think that's the bad debt that we're talking about. So how do we work to get rid of that debt? But, again, keeping those emergency funds in place. I think that also provides, we talk a little bit about financial flexibility, but if you're in a situation, whether that's a relationship or a job that you're not happy in, if you've got those emergency funds built out, maybe that affords you an opportunity to take a step back and transition into something else.
Not only do I have friends who have been the victims of identity theft, including someone you know very well, my co-host on my other show, Allison Raskin, but I have also been doxxed. I've been harassed. I remember when I was working at BuzzFeed, I had right-wingers trying to figure out where I lived, posting everything about me. Privacy really matters. And it not just matters to me as a public figure, but it should matter to you as a listener, especially because I've had people in my personal life harass me too. Exes, things like that, estranged family members. Do you ever wonder how much of your personal data is out there on the internet for anyone to see? It's more than you think. Your name, your contact info, your social security number, home address, even information about your family members, all being compiled by data brokers and sold online. Yes, they can find out your address very easily, even old addresses where like other family members might still live. Data brokers make a profit off your data. Your data is a commodity. Anyone on the web can buy your private details. This can lead to identity theft, phishing attempts, harassment, and unwanted spam calls. But now you can protect your privacy with Delete Me. As a person who exists publicly, especially as someone who shares my opinions online, I am hyper aware of safety and security. And it's easier than ever to find personal information about people online. All of this data is just hanging out on the internet, and it can have actual consequences in the real world. That's why I personally use Delete Me. Delete Me is a subscription service that removes your personal info from hundreds of data brokers. I literally do use Delete Me. Myself, certain friends of mine, we all use Delete Me. I had it recommended to me by a friend of mine who's a sex worker, and she uses it to keep herself safe. I used it to get a bunch of stuff scrubbed off the internet. I promise you it works. It was great. They gave me these personalized updates. Like when I signed up, right, I gave Delete Me the exact information I wanted deleted, and their experts took it from there. Then they sent me these personalized privacy reports showing what info they had found, where they found it, and what they removed, which I loved reading because I was shocked at what they had found. So Delete Me isn't just a one-time service. It's always working for you, constantly monitoring, removing personal information you don't want on the internet. Put simply, it does all the hard work of wiping you and your family's personal information from data broker websites. I promise you, I use it. Myself and a bunch of sex worker friends, we all use it. They recommended it to me, and that's how you know it works. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me, now at a special discount for our listeners. Today, get 20% off your Delete Me plan by texting BAD MONEY to 64000. Text BAD MONEY to 64000. That's BAD MONEY, all one word, to 64000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details. The debt versus savings is such a hard conversation. It's one I look up all the time, and there's so many different schools of thought on it. And so many, I have a friend who's very much you cannot have credit card debt. I don't care if you have $0, do not have credit card debt, because he's deeply concerned about 23% interest rate. A lot of these cards that are considered very good, their interest rate is real, because you get tons of rewards and it's very very flashy. The interest rate is super high. The assumption being that you'll spend a lot and pay it all back because you have money, and you'll just kind of pay it back at the end of the month. And wow, all the rewards are amazing, which I have one of those. The rewards are great, but the interest rate, if I miss one, is so high versus opening all these other accounts, which someone in my family loves to do, and get all 0% interest rates for a year, and then not really have a lot of, or tries to keep more cash on hand versus these cards that you have to open and close all the time, which is who knows what their credit looks like.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I think there's some different schools of thought out there, but I really believe sort of that 3 to 6 month of emergency funds is just critical. Whether you have an unexpected health issue, or if you have a car and, you need to replace a tire, if you're in a home and your furnace goes out, things like that suddenly, to your point, it's great to use credit if you can pay it off in that month. But if it's a larger expense that you can't pay off right away, you're going to be looking at that 23% interest. So you're just paying interest on the interest, which compounds over time and, can eventually become a problem. Those cards with rewards are great if you're disciplined enough to really, to your point, pay them off at the end of the month. But in a lot of cases, when I'm going to say kids, but when younger adults are just starting out, I think that's the struggle they have. You see a lot of stuff on social media. So it looks like people are traveling, or people are going out to these fancy new great bars or these great places for dinner. And so being able to say no sometimes to your friends, that's just not, really write out and understand and know what your budget looks like, your income and your expenses. We talk about the 50-30-20 rule, and there's other varieties of that out there, but 50% of your income spent on your needs, 30% on wants, 20% towards your savings, or you can do 30% savings, but the version being that you're really not spending more than 50% of your income on needs.
Yeah, I've had to do ego death in the sense of things change all the time. And if you need to live somewhere smaller, if you need to get another job, if you need to do all these things, based on the reality of your situation, looking at the reality of your situation sucks. I don't know. I've been avoidant in the past. I think a lot of people are avoidant. And in my experience, for me, cutting down on stuff has been met with somewhat resistance because either they think I'm doing something harmful to myself. So for example, me saying, I'm going to look at smaller apartments. I don't really need this apartment that I have right now. No, don't do that. I'm so sorry. Like, don't do that. And I'm like, I don't feel bad about it. Like, relax. My mom I've always lived in pretty small places when I've been single. And my mom, for some reason, is always concerned if the place doesn't have enough square footage or whatever. And I'm like, I'm one person. I have a 9-pound chihuahua. A studio is fine.
Yeah.
But it's this idea that I'm somehow harming myself by having a realistic budget. Or people, I'll say, oh, I'm gonna get another job, I think. No, don't do that. Like, oh, I'm so sorry. Why? It's a neutral decision.
Yeah. And, you have to take a step back and look at the current situation. And I would say something probably, I'm a little older than you, but something I would say about this next generation is you're creative with ways to make and generate different types of income, right? I think, which is phenomenal. A lot of that is whether it's online now, whether it's podcasting, whether it's multiple jobs. My daughter was like, oh my gosh, my friend makes so much extra money just like dog walking, and I was like, and she enjoys dogs. She likes doing it, and it's bringing in enough money for her to be able to make sure that she's maintaining those expenses. So to your point, like, don't be shaming your friends for making those kinds of decisions, because they're just trying to make sure that they've got their budget set.
I really do think millennials got trapped in this way. A long time ago, so I got into a relationship. We bought a house. We got engaged. We broke up. The house thing took forever. I'm not super allowed to talk about it because they made me sign an NDA. It was a mess for my finances. My finances got decimated by that because, like you said, one of the big D words is divorce. And that's apparently the worst thing that can happen to you financially. So because of that and the rebuilding of it all, I think I became more able to say, okay, well, this is what needs to happen. Or, before all of that happened. So 2019, I was looking into getting an RV and living in an RV because I was like, I like RVs. I think the way I grew up kind of low income. And so in Florida. And so to me, when a family had a really nice RV, I was jealous.
I was like, some of these RVs are incredible.
When I was a kid, if someone rolled up, if a friend of mine rolled up and her family had a super nice RV, I was so jealous. And I was like, why don't we have an RV? And I think I have a warped concept of what rich people have. Like, I'm like, oh, I grew up in Florida in the 90s. It's RVs, French manicures. Those are signs of wealth. Anyway, so I was looking at that. And then I think there was a stigma to it that has kept us in this capitalist loop. Oh, you live in the trailer park. Okay, I live in the trailer park. Who cares? The thing we were talking about in the Tuesday episode about, she's a gold digger. Okay. But it took so long for us as millennials to dig out of these stereotypes of what you're supposed to have and think about what you actually like. I love driving. I love traveling. I love RVs. Why am I upset about that?
No, that's exactly right. I think that's true too. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but I've gotta get this kind of job. It's time for me to get married. It's time for me to have kids. My house will be this big with the white picket fence. I think that was very, very much a product of our childhood.
And it's it's almost like when I transitioned and my friends from home who were very we're in touch a little bit, and they're very religious. They got married. They have kids. They're very traditional. And when I was like, when I transitioned, one of them was like, "Oh, I'm not surprised. You've always kind of been quirky." And I was like, "Well, those two things are not related." But I do think the superpower of being kind of unconventional is what allows you to think differently and make maybe different, cooler decisions. But I think maybe there's seeing it as not quirky, but actually just like a thing you can do.
A different lifestyle, different choice, different, right? So, right. You can live where you want, and whether it's a home or an RV or what, who cares? I'm
on Craigslist looking at RVs. My problem is, what do you do with the poop?
I mean, honestly, I want to live on a houseboat, I think.
Right? My God, my friend's husband wants to live on a houseboat so bad, and she is like so against it. It's really funny. Well, thank you so much. Where can people find you? I guess LinkedIn. And where else?
Yeah, you can find me at our website, www.mesirow.com, MESIROW.com, or via LinkedIn. And thanks so much for having me, Gabe. It's been great talking to you.
You too. Bad with Money with Gabriel S. Dunn is a production of Noted Bisexual, produced by Melisa D. Monts and Diamond MPrint Productions. Edited by Diane Kang, post-production sound by Coco Llorens, production assistance by Melanie D. Watson, and music by Mike Kaplan, Zach Sherwin, and Jack Dolgen, sung by Sam Barbera. Thank you, love you, bye!
Yeah, sure thing. Hey, you sold that car yet?
Yeah, sold it to Carvana.
Oh, I thought you were selling to that guy.
The guy who wanted to pay me in foreign currency, no interest, over 36 months? Yeah, no. Carvana gave me an offer in minutes, picked it up, and paid me on the spot. It was so convenient.
Just like that.
Yeah?
No hassle.
None.
That is super convenient.
Sell your car to Carvana and swap hassle for convenience. Pickup fees may apply.